Hello, Thunder Wizard. So today's topic is going to be how to remove curses on other people. Are there people in your life that you care about? Your family members, your children, your friends, your loved ones. Do you believe that they're cursed? Do they believe that they're cursed? To really get an understanding of what a curse is, I recommend that you go and watch the video that I just recently did about Are You Cursed? So you can find out what a curse really is. But short answer is that a curse is an energetic, negative force working against you on the unconscious level. And it can be that you received this curse from, it could be anywhere. It could be family members, could be parents, could be spouses, it could be friends, it could be society, it could be your religion, could be it could be anything. But here's what's important to know. Before you start thinking about all of the ways that you have been victimized by these curses coming from other places, you must first realize that there is no possibility of being cursed without your approval. Now, the hard part is that this approval happens on an unconscious level, meaning you are not aware of it. And it usually happens because you want to fit in and be accepted. It also happens because there is trauma deep in your unconscious mind that is so painful that you are seeking to escape it. And so what you do is you attract energetically to you chaos, misery, depression, ill health, poverty, failure, crazy relationships. You invite these into your life on an unconscious level, and you make a contract with this energy. And the contract that you make is you say to this energy unconsciously, again, you're not consciously aware that you do this. Bear in mind, you have a conscious mind, a subconscious, and then an unconscious. The unconscious is the 90% of your mind that is doing everything. This is why you can spend your whole life doing positive affirmations and nothing changes, because that's your conscious mind. If your unconscious mind is running on a different program, that you're supposed to be unhappy and alone and poor, unsuccessful, if you're running on that program, that unconscious programming will always override whatever you do consciously. So what ends up happening is that you invite this negative energy or people or situations, very real physical situations, in some cases actual negative entities, into your life. By the way, negative entities are much rarer than people think. I'm going to tell you right here and now. The majority of people who think they have negative entities don't. It's their own unconscious mind. And once they stop, once they realize that they're doing it to themselves, those voices will stop. True negative entity, it does happen, but it's much rarer than people think. I know because I was an exorcist for years. So I know the difference. So, again, you invite this negative energy into your life, this misery, this poverty, this craziness, the crazy relationships, to distract you from what is really going on. There's something even deeper than that. I'll give you an example. I shared it before. But when I used to do exorcisms, every single time that I did them, I can't speak for anybody else, every single time that I did them, and we're talking like people like throwing up green vomit and, changing their facial structure and voices and other languages and, all kinds of stuff that you see in all the crazy movies except for the head spinning around. Everything except for that I've seen. And in every single instance that I've been in where that was going on, I would have to get the person to acknowledge who had harmed them. And it was usually a family member, an uncle, somebody who had emotionally, psychologically, sexually, or physically abused them. And the pain and the trauma of that was so painful that they pushed it away deep into their unconscious, but it kept trying to come back up. And so what they would do unconsciously is send out the signal asking for anything to come and distract them. Negative entities, which are beings who themselves are seeking to run away from their own divine nature. They can't feed off of life force energy anymore because they've shut themselves off from their own divinity. And so they seek negative energy, anger, pain, sadness, fear, violence. They seek this out because it fuels them. That's why, by the way, that's why you see ghosts hanging around electrical outlets and things that have a lot of electricity. You'll find ghosts hanging around there because ghosts are running away from their own. They're trying not to go back. So those of you who say don't go to the light, that's where you're going to end up. You're going to end up floating around, running away from the light, and just hanging around other people's houses and trying to soak up energy off of electrical currents, and then you slowly turn into a demon. That's what demons are. You want to know what they are? That's what they are. And so what ends up happening is you make a contract with these entities to distract you from your problems that you can choose to work through. Very difficult. I'm not trying to say it's easy. Very challenging, very painful, and very difficult. But if you choose to look at this garbage inside of you, and if you forgive everybody who has harmed you, negative entities must leave. Because that's what I found out. Every time I would be doing the exorcism, and this was way back when I was a Christian, and the thing is that these negative entities respond to whatever belief system you have. So if you believe that Jesus will cast out demons, the name of Jesus will cast out demons. If you believe it is Vishnu, if you believe it is Krishna, if you believe it is Shiva, if you believe it is whomever, whatever thought form you believe in, if you fully believe in it, it will drive out any negative entities because it represents to you connection to the spiritual center of the universe. You can call it God if you want. You can call it your own soul. Your own soul is really God anyway. But it represents connecting to that. And when you connect to that fearlessly, meaning that you're taking full responsibility. You don't realize you do this when you're seeking out to forgive others and empower yourself. You're actually seeking out being connected to your own soul. When you connect to your own soul, negative entities, negative people must leave. They must. So that is what a curse is. So I spoke about how to, and if you look at it, I direct you to a video on the thunderwizard.com site where I teach you exactly what to do to remove the curses within you. But in this case, what about curses of others? The reason why is because I do get communications from people a lot who ask about that. Ask about how to remove curses from their mother, their son, their husband, their wife, their kids. The first thing you need to understand is that you can only remove fully the curses within yourself. You have to understand that. So you have to understand that the people in your lives who are cursed, meaning that it could just be that they have emotional problems, they have poverty problems, they may have mental problems, whatever it is, you need to understand that that's their karma. They chose to take that on, and there's something within them that they are running away from, And to replace that, they bring in the chaos of whatever it is in order to overcome that, to distract themselves from the real pain that's going on. So understand that that's none of your business. You can't go to them now that you've watched this video and say, you need to take care of yourself. This is you can't do that. It's none of your business. The only thing you can do is be a source of healing. If they ask for your help, you can give them help. If they're your child, you have a responsibility to take them to professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, mentors, spiritual teachers. They will either choose to accept or reject whatever, help you provide for them. It's still on them, but you are responsible for at least giving them, getting them to, whatever can help them. But understand, you can't. It's not your job, and it's none of your business. So, having said that, I wanted to make that very clear because, even last time when I talked about curses, people wanted to talk about removing curses from other people and, how can I remove a curse from this and that? And it's like, you didn't hear what I said. You can only remove curses from within you. And that comes from taking full responsibility for your reality. Path of the spiritual warrior is the only path that I know of. So but having said that, you can do rituals for other people. And here are the people that you can do rituals for. If you are a parent, especially if you are a mother, you have a responsibility to do rituals for your kids. Doesn't matter whether they believe in it or not. In fact, you're not even supposed to tell them that you do it. Like my mom used to say, I'm praying for you. That was her thing. She was a Christian. But, from a spiritual perspective, she shouldn't have even been telling me that. Because then her ego gets involved. Whenever you tell somebody I'm doing a ritual for you, your ego is involved and you're doing it to manipulate them or to get something from them. You keep it to yourself. And here's the reason why. When you do a ritual, whether it's you do a mantra, like in India, mothers are expected to do Ganesha mantras for their children. When you do that, what you're really doing, I want you to listen to me very carefully, what you're really doing is you are reprogramming your own unconscious. Because it is true that parents do program their children with their unconscious energy. This is why you can't say to your kids, don't do as I say, not what I do, because they're only going to respond to what you're doing unconsciously. And if you have unconscious anger, unconscious resentment, unconscious victim mentality, if you have any unresolved issues of your own that you have not worked through, you will pass those on to your children. If you yourself went through and had parents who were abusive or dysfunctional in any way, you will pass on your unresolved programs. Doesn't matter whether you're conscious of them and you hate your parents and you know that they did this and you're not going to be anything like them. You're still programmed on an unconscious level. You will pass that on to your kids. Now they might make the choice to reject that programming and heal themselves and take responsibility. That's happened. I did that. But what you can do when you do mantra, when you do ritual, when you do shamanic ritual, any of the stuff that I teach up here, when you do that and you do it for your kids, you are actually reprogramming your unconscious energy. And you are healing and shifting whatever unconscious garbage that you are unknowingly programming into your kids. That's why mothers are expected to do rituals. Now, the average person doesn't realize that. They think, I'm doing a ritual for my kids, I'm chanting to Ganesha for my kids, and of course that love does go to them, the ritual does go to them, but what really happens is that they are locked with you energetically because they are your child. And what you're doing is you're reversing any curses you are unwittingly sending to your kids. And curses are as simple as you don't believe in being happy and successful. You're going to unwittingly teach that to your child, whether you realize it or not. That's why you can't say to your kids, you go do as I say, not as I do, because they are going to do whatever is going on. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up, both my parents smoked cigarettes. Guess what? As soon as I was 10 years old, guess what I started doing? Smoking cigarettes. And my parents would catch them and they would take my cigarettes and tear them up and throw them away. And don't you do that. Didn't change anything. You know, up until I was 18, I smoked cigarettes, whether they liked it or not. And because I was responding to their unconscious programming. I was doing what they taught me how to do. Doesn't matter that I got punished for it. Because, you know, the unconscious mind doesn't know from that. So, let me share with you a story about, I've shared this before. This is about a Huna master. Huna is the shamanism of Hawaii. And this was, I believe, a Japanese guy who lived in Hawaii, and he started training with a Huna master. And he was I believe, a psychologist by trade. And he had been having a lot of success with his clients. And there was a mental institution in California, I believe in San Francisco. And these people had really bad, messed up, people that they had to restrain. They had to restrain these people because they would do things like attack you, bite you, throw feces at you. They were just very, very aggressive. And so, you know, and nothing was working. So I think it was a woman who was running that program there, contacted this man. I forget his name. If you're deep into Huna, you already know who I'm talking about. Contacted him and asked him if he would work with them these really bad cases. And so he decided yes. And so they said, great, when can you be here? Because he was in Hawaii. And he says, oh, I'm not coming there. Well, how are you going to fix them? He says, don't worry, just send me their files. Yeah, but how are you going to help them if you're not talking? He says, listen, this is how I do it. Don't worry about it. Just send me their files. So she says, okay. She was desperate. Sent him the files. He never went over there to see. He never once met with any of those patients. Those patients started getting better. So much so that they ended up leaving and, you know, becoming functional people again. And so she asked him, she said, what did you do? And he said, when I was looking at the files, every time I read something in the files about, oh, he attacked somebody and bit their ear off, or he threw his feces at somebody, and every time that I had a judgment against them, I would go and fix that within myself. Because he knew that everything was his own projection. And if there are crazy people in San Francisco who are living that way, it's because he has a judgment inside of him, in his unconscious. He'll call it his data. He'll call it his lower self. It's just another name for the unconscious mind. In his unconscious mind, these people existed in a flawed way, and he was going in and he was healing himself because the judgment that he had was damaging to him. And so he went, and every time that he would read and see their picture and have a judgment, he would go in and he would chant the Huna prayer, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And he was talking to his own self. He was saying, I love you to his self. I'm sorry to his self for creating a faulty image of somebody. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. He was asking forgiveness from himself. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. Thank you for showing me how the true divine potential of this person. And when he could change his viewpoint of that person inside himself, he knew that those people would be healed in the real world. And that's exactly what happened. So when you do ritual, when you do a mantra for your kids, you can be thinking about, your kid and wanting your child, Ganesha, to go and empower your child. And of course, those vibrations go to that child and they are affected by those vibrations. And the child will feel your love on an energetic level, maybe on an unconscious level. All of that is true. And you will be repairing damage within your own lower self, which will then repair and reverse any damaged programming you are giving to your child. Do you understand? This is why when I was doing exorcisms all those years ago, I found out very quickly that the only way to successfully get rid of the demon was in between, because what would happen is the person, like the demon, would come up and the face would change and the eyes would turn bloodshot red and fangs, and I'm not kidding, they would completely transform. And the voice would change and everything, and I'd say, in Jesus' name, I command you, and then they would go, and then the person would come back and they would say, oh my God, help me, I can't, this is crazy, they're torturing me. And then I would say, hang on, who hurt you? My uncle. What's his name? Uncle Bob. You have to forgive Uncle Bob. No, and then I'd get rid of the demon for a moment. You've got to forgive Uncle Bob. You've got to tell him that you forgive him. Otherwise, you won't get rid of the demon. And when they would say, okay, Uncle Bob, I forgive you, guess what would happen? They would weep and they would cry and they would release a bunch of feelings. And guess what happened? The demons left. They repaired within themselves. And when you do that, no curse, nothing negative can hold on to you. If you have any victim mentality, if you believe that the universe is out to get you, the elites are out to get you, the rich people, government, reptilians, aliens, if you think any of those things out there are out to get you, you'll manifest it. And you'll manifest it because you don't want to take full responsibility for your own pain. You take responsibility for your own pain, and those entities, those energies, imagined or otherwise, because here's the other fact, it doesn't matter whether they're real or not. If you imagine it enough, it becomes real. Not just real in your head, it actually becomes manifested as a thought form. So it doesn't matter whether it's real or imagined. That's why I never argue with people about, are aliens doing this? I never argue with, I don't know. Because you could very well have created those aliens yourself, and or they could be very real and they smell your victim mentality. They smell that you want to be diverted, and so they come after you. And they feed off of you until you become self-sufficient, until you become responsible for yourself, and until you forgive all those who have harmed you. And then what happens is they can't stay. It's like, it hurts them. They can't be around it. And then they take off. So you can do rituals for other people, and you should do it because it heals you. But you never tell them about it. You never go and tell them, I'm doing rituals for you, I'm praying for you, I'm chanting for you. You never tell them. And if they get better, you never tell them. Because all you've done is release them to take responsibility for themselves. And for all you know, them taking responsibility for themselves may have healed you and kick-started it in reverse so that you did rituals for them. You never know how this stuff works. But you can't tell them. It's none of their business what you're doing, and it's none of your business what they're doing. If they decide to destroy their lives, that's their business. And you can't get in the way of that. You have to let them live their own lives. Okay? So I hope that's clear. And one of the most powerful ways to do rituals for somebody is to get a mantra that is created precisely based off of your astrological reading. I am giving 50% off right now, which is a $200 savings off of me personally. You can save even more money if you get one from one of my apprentices. And so go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. This is only for the month of August. And August will go by quickly, trust me. So I would recommend getting one as soon as you can. And you can not only heal yourself, but you can do a ritual for any person that you want in the world. And there's a very good chance that they will heal from it if they choose to respond to it. But you will benefit no matter what happens. Okay? That's it for me. I look forward to talking to you soon.